Hello again, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode contains a completely new interview with different directors discussing the most popular and interesting films and television of the day. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/thedirectorscut. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Stephen Gaghan's new adventure drama, Gold. Based on true events, the film stars Matthew McConaughey as Kenny Wells, a businessman who teams up with a geologist to search for gold deep in the uncharted jungles of Indonesia. After making the find of the century, their operation draws the unwanted attention of both the FBI and the Indonesian military. In addition to Gold, Mr. Gaghan's credits include the feature films Syriana and Abandon, and the movies for television White City and Metro. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Gaghan spoke about the challenges of making Gold with director Sam Esmail. Listen on for highlights from their conversation, including discussions about designing the look of Matthew McConaughey's character, how the production recovered from a torrential rainstorm that destroyed two of their main sets in Thailand, and Mr. Gaghan's decision to shoot on multiple formats, including on 35mm film using the Arri Alexa camera.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming down here, Stephen.
Yeah, say thank you to Sam.
I've never done this, so I'm a little terrified.
You guys have, I hope, seen the show Mr. Robot, which, like kind of my favorite show. I actually wrote Sam a fan letter. I wrote him a fan letter, a cold fan letter over the transom.
He did. It's from Stephen Gaghan, you know what I mean? It's a little crazy. So before we get into this, this is what I want to talk about. This movie, I was saying to Stephen earlier that it's this drama that's not. It's not like eating your vegetables drama. You know what I mean? It's like it ends like the third act. You're like, holy fuck, what the fuck is going on? And then all of a sudden you find yourself in this thriller, and that's the feeling I got when I saw Syriana for the first time in Traffic, and I'm just, there's this weird genre that you've sort of invented, this smart drama, thriller drama, that Oscar drama that's entertaining but should be boring, but it absolutely isn't. What is that? What is it about that you love? What is it that resonates with you about that?
It's probably some kind of sickness. We were talking about it briefly backstage. I was telling him this story that happened recently. It was like a friend of mine who's a producer I've known forever, and he's a really smart guy. And he was talking with this heads of a studio, and they were saying they wanted to do a movie about a subject matter that I think is really interesting. But anyway, they wanted to do about guns. And he called me up because I had the craziest conversation. They were talking about this thing, guns. And they said, we want it to be kind of like Traffic. You know the movie Traffic? We'd like it to be... Then they referenced Syriana, but then we'd also like to be a little bit like Syriana. And he said, in the middle of it, I stopped. And I said, I actually was just talking with this guy, Steve Gaghan, like a week ago. He was in my office, and we were talking about maybe doing a movie. I could call him, and they were like, oh, no, don't do that.
Right, because it's like... The thing is, you don't dumb it down at all. I mean, they're really smart movies. You don't feel the need to condescend or, come up with call the bad guys Evil Corp. You don't do anything stupid like that. You do, you straight up keep it on this high intelligent, but yet it's just really entertaining. So is there, and it's always like a blend of truth, like reality. I mean, it's very grounded.
I think probably I don't know where it comes from exactly. Like from a writing perspective per se, but I know from just films I loved, like when I think back on a lot of my favorite films, it's probably movies like, Battle of Algiers and Wages of Fear and like Wages of Fear is a perfect film. Like I love movies I love All the President's Men. I love those kind of, I guess I like systems, anything where you get to look at a system, I think that's a kind of I don't know why I do it. That's the. I mean, I have no idea.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about?
I don't do
talk
it
a
very
little
often.
bit about Gold. Like, how did you find it? How did it come to you?
I knew the writers when I was going to maybe do a TV series. I'd met them. They were on Friday Night Lights. I'd get together with them every so often for coffee, and they'd say they were working on this movie, and then there would be updates. Like Michael Mann's going to make our movie about gold prospecting, and I'd be like, "That's awesome!" And then it'd be like, "Oh, Michael Mann's not." And then it'd be like, "Christian Bale's going to do our movie." I'm like, "That's awesome!" And then it's like, "Oh, he's not." Movies take a long time to get going. This guy directed. He just was talking about. He directed 80. He did 80 days of shooting. He directed every single episode of.
And how many did you?
55.
55.
Yeah.
I had to do
I told
12
him that
hours.
at the end of the third season of Mr. Robot, he was going to be Alfred Hitchcock. That like just that level of like getting to make something and just getting to do it over and over and over.
But I would rather have 55. Just to put it on the record, I'd rather have 55 days per 2 hours. If USA is listening.
Oh yeah, that's 10 hours.
Remember, I gotta. Yeah, it's a lot more pages per day.
There were some days we shot. I mean, it was crazy. We had one 7-scene day, and I was joking. I was like, not since peak period Matlock has anyone knocked out the pages.
Wait a minute, because this is actually one of my questions. Because I directed all the episodes in the second season, we did a lot of block shooting, and which is fucking insane. Because we're not just shooting we're shooting like 7 episodes a day. So scenes from.
By the way, we had the same problem, but it was because of weather. I mean, trying to shoot in Thailand.
The bar scene, though. Did you shoot all that in like one day and just jam it out? Like, did you have like a couple of days to do that? You had a couple of days, didn't you?
We really had one incredibly long day,
and did then, all the bar scenes.
And then we had like a kind of spillover day, and when we got done with that was half a day, and we actually lost Robert Elswit. He disappeared, and we'd moved to another. We had moved to another location. The American home, we were shooting the outside. That first exterior shot of the American home, I did that without Robert, which is very unusual because he had fallen asleep in the back of a van because the bar is so beautifully lit, and he really was just doing this incredible lighting in there, and yet we were really doing a lot of pages. It was challenging. And
can you just talk a little bit about like working with Matthew and. Because he's obviously just transformed himself yet again and has given himself this weird bald and get comfortable, settle in.
Guys aren't leaving don't go anywhere. Thank you for staying. Appreciate it. Matthew had a lot of really, because it's all DGA. It's like sometimes. How a character is going to look and seem is a huge discussion, and sometimes actors come and they have like a really strong idea of what he should look like. And in this instance, Matthew, he really was basing it on people he knew growing up, and he had a clear vision in his mind. He wanted the weight, he wanted him to pick it up. Originally, we thought we were going to maybe use a fat suit, and we had one built, and it was the worst fat suit in the history of fat. It was like I could do a better job with pillows and like this coat. I mean, it came from England with like a fat suit delivery man, and it was expensive. And then we put it on, and it just ripped. And it was because he'd already gained probably 25 pounds just on his own. And then we talked a lot. We were in Thailand, and we had a whole variety of hair pieces, and we had the sort of teeth, and like the teeth when they first showed up, they were really aggressive. Like it would have just been a movie about teeth. And so I was kind of secretly going to Fizz at night, like unbeknownst to anyone. I would go in and see her, who was doing the hair and makeup for him, and I would just beg her to shave, to file down the teeth at night, like so that no one would know, because the tooth was like it was like, this is Gold, the Tooth movie, Gold, and she just subtly kept changing it overnight, and nobody really noticed, but it kept getting smaller.
I mean, the entire cast, like Edgar Ramirez and Stacy Keach and Bryce Dallas Howard. How do you work with actors? Do you do a lot of takes? Do you let them give you feedback on scripts, or are you like militant about it?
It's a super wide range. Everyone's different, and like it's actually it's very interesting in this movie. Edgar Ramirez is, I think, a wonderful actor, and his process is 180 degrees different than Matthew McConaughey's. They're completely different as actors. One is extremely external, one is extremely internal. One is sort of about hearing trying to hear his thoughts. The other is like very out front in his, in the way they were doing their character. And it suited the characters, in this instance, like kind of perfectly, but it's an absolutely different process. Like, Edgar, like he doesn't, like he's never seen a mark that he likes to like notice, it doesn't, marks don't exist. Like it's just, oh, the mark, and you're just like doing setups like a lot of times in very long lenses, and, things are super designed. And so it's just, if the mark is important. I mean, the mark matters.
A little important. Yeah.
But he's doing
if he
something,
wants to be on camera.
But it's like if he's thinking about the mark, he's not doing the thing. Right. And when he's not thinking about the mark, the thing is magic. So you're just constantly adjusting. And Matthew's the exact opposite. It's like he has an absolute setup in his mind. He knows how it's working once he sees it and gets it. In terms of preparation, like Bryce, she was playing someone who really is like a hard drinker who is a barmaid. And she told me, she had the role, and we were actually, my son is here, and my son Gardner is here. He actually, on the drive here, he said there were two things he wouldn't talk about no matter what. And I was like, what are they? And he said, number one, whether or not we're a simulation, and number two is Donald Trump. And then he talked about simulation for 25 minutes. But anyway, he was there when Bryce we got together for the first time in Albuquerque, and she told me she'd never had a drink in her whole life, not a sip of alcohol, not one drop, never tasted it, never smoked a cigarette. I mean, it took me like 4 days to get over my shock because I'd never met anyone like that. And then, we had to build that up from the ground floor. Now, we didn't have that problem with Matthew.
But so on set, I'm just
I don't
curious.
know if I answered the
question. No,
question.
you did. You did.
It's super specific, but it's probably my favorite part of the process.
So you're in the scene, you're shooting it, they're doing it not what you wanted, Do you yell during the take? Do you cut in the middle of a take? Do you let the take, like what's your approach?
Oh.
I'm a yeller, and I've been told that's not great. That's not a great approach.
You're a yeller?
I'm a yeller. I'm just like, no, this and that and blah, blah. And then, and then there are times where I'm just like, it's not right. It's like totally wrong, but I kind of want to see what happens,
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. I can see that actually.
And I never cut. Do you cut? Because I roll takes. I just do it again and again and again.
Sometimes I do that. I do that a fair amount actually. Particularly when people are working their way into something and you feel it. But again, like Matthew is a guy who is he's amazing on his first take. Like his first take sometimes is just, you don't need to roll it over. It wouldn't make sense. It's like you just realize it happened. And so you're like, great, we got it. Or at least I am. But in terms of yelling, I think my style has evolved a little bit. I think as you do it, I think I was like learning what works for me. And it's a really interesting question because I get really frustrated. I get super, super frustrated. I mean, you know how it is. You really want things to go, and you have this vision in your brain. And I mean, even like when he saw the movie and he wrote me and he said he really liked it and it seemed genuine, it made me really, really happy. But you never know how your movie's really, I have no idea how the movie's really turned out. And it, when we're honest, it usually it isn't what you imagined. You know, you had this perfection in your head, and you get there, and it's a constant thing. And on this movie, which had moments, you know, it was some parts of it were quite difficult. You know, we had incredible floods in the monsoon. We lost our entire set. We lost our main set. We these two rivers connected, and the river rose 35 feet in 24 hours and wiped out 80% of our locations in Thailand. And so it just became a completely different process for me. Like for the first time in my life, I really had to be a total grown up. Like it was really hard.
Wait, what do you do when you lose all your sets? I mean, how do you not quit and just say, all right, well, I guess this movie isn't getting made?
I mean, it's so incredible to me that people don't notice or just go, what happened? You know, but it actually, I mean, it's hats off to the production. Okay. These guys were nimble and they pivoted, but because we were like an indie film and we were on a really tight schedule, I used my return ticket from Thailand so I wouldn't have to pay the change fee. So I actually got out of Thailand on the same time, but it was just, you know, I'd gone with the way Robert and I work, and I'm sure you probably work with your DP too, is just, you know, every day off is scouting no matter what, and you're scouting nonstop, and we get there early, and, you know, we walk through everything just multiple times, and we really spend an enormous amount of time figuring everything out, and then it just all got thrown out, you know, and it got thrown out in the middle of a torrential rainstorm that didn't stop. It didn't stop. So it was really, it was so astonishing, like to be in a canoe and realize the roof of your set is 10 feet underwater. Like, it's so astonishing to get in a boat and like sail off over the roof of your set in a boat. Like you feel like you're a Terry Gilliam film. It just makes no sense. And so, anyway, just to answer your question, you couldn't get angry. It was just, you just had to laugh.
Really?
You couldn't get angry. It was just like,
I mean,
otherwise
if my Starbucks order is screwed up, I get really angry. My day's done. I can't.
You're like, it's a combo of like Fitzcarraldo, I guess, and then like a Gear Wrath of God.
So did you rebuild? I mean, is that what you did? You guys just said, all right,
we had to
make this
change we changed every single thing we were doing. So
you changed the script.
Well, we changed the script a little bit, but, you know, just in terms of our production flow, we went north and went back to shoot the stuff in the city. And then we, you know, were trying to scout and find new locations at the same time down south in the jungle and rebuild and find a place to build all the sets and change. And, you know, and all the jungle work where they walk, all that stuff, most of it was not reachable anymore because the rivers that we had scouted on were no longer passable.
Do you like location scouting?
I have my ups and downs with it. Do you like it?
I love sets because I want to control every little thing. I'm a huge control freak, especially with production design.
I can see how that. I mean, that's the swimming pool in the apartment?
That was a nice big house that we found in New York.
Is that in the city?
That's in the city. And it's on like the fourth
floor. People have gotten so rich. Yeah. Like it just, have you seen this in this show? I was like,
Trump's house.
Yes, Trump's exactly. It's on top of.
But it was a pain in the ass to shoot. I really could only shoot like one way or the other, and I couldn't. And if I had a set, you know, I could put the camera wherever I want. Do you like shooting on location, or
I do?
You do.
I really like it.
There's a realism to it.
I think for the types of films, you know, for these films,
yeah,
you know, they're so different. You know, the thing you're doing, their DNA is quite different. I mean, other than we're both perfectionists, I think. But it's, you know, I found like when you get out there in the world, you know, so much of the writing process for me is research based, you know, and it's meeting people and kind of seeing where they live and trying to go home with them and have drinks with them and like meet their family and then like, you know, wander this way and wander that way. And I think that shooting style just kind of, you know, over the course of all that research and note taking and taking my own pictures everywhere, you just start to really see things you know, you want to put the camera there. And then just from a budget standpoint, like for what we're doing, because you're moving, you know, it's like 240 different locations or whatever it is. It's just, and all the sets are different. You don't ever go back to the same place, or very rarely.
Tell me, like, I kind of want to know, just from, because we're at the DGA, I think this is kind of an interesting insight. Like, what do you do the morning of a shoot day? Do you do you tune out? Are you like, I want to just listen to some music or whatever? Or do you read the script again, the pages you're going to shoot that day, and and look at the story? What do you do?
I mean, if I'm totally honest, what I'm doing a lot of times is I'm in the van on the way to the set, and I'm sort of scratching out shot lists. Like, I'm kind of like, because we've made this really detailed plan, and I'm just throwing it out. Like,
you have a shot list.
I have a plan.
But you're like, F the shot list.
Yeah, and then usually on the way to the day, I don't know why this is exactly. I just redo it somehow, and then I show up and I have like a whole kind of new idea. And sometimes and I've worked, like when I was particularly in Syriana, like with Jen Fox, she often knew what my other intent was, and so sometimes she would know that the other thing was way better, and then she would catch me and she'd be like, "Remember that thing you were talking about?" And that thing was like, and I'd be like, "Ah." But a lot of times we're just, because it's funny, and it's different with sets, because then you've had an opportunity to walk through them and you know them so well. But like for a lot of the stuff we were doing, it's just so different the first time you ever see your actual actors in their actual costumes in the actual location they're working, and then you watch them, so I try to get everyone there as early as I can. I don't want people in hair and makeup. I want everyone to get out there. And then basically I want to see what they're going to do, because you have, often quite inspired people who are really deeply in it. Like Matthew and Edgar, when we were up in the jungle, they were staying up there. Like they were, we were 2.5 hours from anywhere. You had to get up at 4 a.m. to get up there, or you could stay. There were 30-foot Burmese pythons. There were huge spiders. There was nothing around. And those guys were just like, totally like just kind of living it. And then you get there in the morning, they're already there. So I'm just like psyched. So I'm like, all right, let's go to the thing we're going to do, and like just let them start doing it. And it's Robert, and we're sitting there and we're just
you're just watching.
We're just watching.
So you don't have a block. You're not blocking in your head.
I have 100% have a blocking plan, like 100%.
But you want to see what they're doing.
I want to see what they're going to do. And if it's better, or if I think it's got something to it, then I like to go with that. But then that requires figuring out a whole new system. So usually. And then
so then you do the blocking, and then you're like, this is cool. And then you and Robert go away and you figure out.
It's all happening
while you're watching
the flow,
Wow.
because with Robert, we've done a couple movies now, and we're like kind of the same in a way, where we never leave the set and just like sleep on the set, nap, never leave for lunch. And like kind of we're always there just thinking about it. And so he's, working on the lighting and trying to figure out how that's all going to fit together. And I'm kind of following him around and messing around with the lenses and just,
What do you do on your way home?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm usually really, really wrung out after a day. I'm just kind of in a bit of a coma. How about you?
I have to think about the next day, unfortunately. All I want to do is go home and watch old reruns of Jon Stewart on Daily Show. But because that's usually what I like to zone out. I like to zone out, or I listen to music. But I unfortunately can't do that.
I find that often what I have to do a lot of times is I'm tweaking the script. It's always evolving.
Do you let the actors pitch ideas for the script?
I'm open to anything. Like
you are.
Anybody comes along with a good idea, and I've had different experiences. Like I've had, like on Syriana, we didn't really change. Like nobody would change a line of that script unless like just people were super respectful. And this one, was just a different situation. Matthew works quite differently. He likes to write and come up with ideas, and sometimes they work really well, and sometimes they don't work as well. And so you're, kind of crafting a thing on the fly. And it was, I think it's cool. And sometimes it works unbelievably well, and sometimes you just, you want to, you're worried about it.
Let's talk about Robert Elswit, because he's just a brilliant cinematographer, one of the best for sure out there. How do you work with him? Like, so you're done with the blocking and you're about to figure out, what's your first questions you start hitting each other with in terms of the camera? Because your movies are very composed. They're not They're not coverage.
It's such a strange process. Like, I have to walk you guys through this because it's really weird. So every day off, like any moment we're off, he and I are sitting at and also with a production designer, Maria Jerkovic, and we're sitting in Thailand, for instance, usually at the hotel, drinking whatever they have to drink, like fruit smoothies or whatever. And we're going through everything, and we're making this plan that is so conceptually as deep as we can come up with, and then also very super detailed, and then sometimes on complex sequences, I have a storyboard artist and we're drawing them, and everything is getting really locked down. And then somehow we just throw all that out, like all of it, like it just gets tossed away. I can't explain it. It's like you have to do that. But then on the day, there's not a ton of talking, it's because we with the same camera operator, Colin Anderson, on both those movies, and get along with him super well. He's incredibly talented. And we're like really in sync, and a lot of times Robert just, because he's an incredible photographer, he'll just have something, and he'll have put the lens up on the thing, and we look through it, and you're just like, it's exactly right, and you don't need it's just not a lot of messing around. And
So it's not. Is it? Here are the shots we need for this scene, or is it? Here's the shot for right now.
It's nothing to do with the shots we need for the scene. Like, it would never be like that. Like,
That's
we're
great.
missing, which is not the greatest way to work, because sometimes you literally get home and 6 months later you're like, oh my God, we need a close up. And but usually it's just about the feeling. It's about some instinctual thing about the feeling of the scene. Thailand was incredible because, like you were talking about block shooting, because of the way the weather worked and we were outside so much, you had full downpour, light rain, rain with sunshine, partial cloud, overcast, and all of that could happen in the same hour. And so it was impossible to shoot for continuity. So what we had to do was just constantly have 4 or 5 scenes running and just kind of keep in our heads, oh, we still owe that from the rainy scene. Oh, right, that happened, we had full sun in that. We got to go back and get the full sun shot we're missing. And we're just, on the river with the rafts, and the poor set dresser. I mean, this guy, I've never seen a person run more, like running and running and running, and then eventually just brought everything, because they're changing costumes and changing days and changing, and we're just, sometimes running 10, 12 scenes at the same time, and we're just kind of keeping them in our mind and moving up the river and down the river and across the river and into the woods and up the hill, and just, oh my God, is it going to be sunny for the next, and you don't have that on Mr. Robot.
Wait, because I got the 5-minute warning. I did want to ask you about because you shot this 35 and Alexa, right? You shot on digital and film.
Yeah. Yep.
Why did you do that?
Well, that was part of our. It's really so fun. Like when you're like working with Robert and just kind of the earliest conceptual thinking about this film, particularly, we were talking about what is this film really about? And when I was talking with Sam, in his show, he has this incredibly faulty or untrustworthy narrator. I mean, he really messes with our head. And I don't know if you've seen the show, but it's like, not to kiss your ass, but it's truly unbelievably well directed. And it is so amazing that it's on television, and he's doing these like Antonioni tricks and things I've never seen. But there's this long sequence where these guys are hanging out at the basketball court, they're talking in a diner, all this stuff's going on, torture's going on, and then you find out the entire thing is actually in prison, and it's all been in the guy's mind, and he wasn't telling you the truth.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. And, well, too bad. You should be up to speed on it. Don't miss this show. Anyway, and I was saying, like, this movie to me was ultimately about a guy who's telling his own story. And he's like making a biopic of his own life, telling this FBI guy. And the question is he telling the truth? Is he a trustworthy narrator or not? Is he a guy just trying to get out of trouble? Is he in on it? Is he not in on it? Okay, that's the first thing. Then it's like, all right, since we're seeing the movie through the lens of his mind, how does he see himself? How does he see himself? And then suddenly you start working out like a camera language and an approach. You're going to tell the story through the lens, what's going to happen. And I'm like, well, when it starts out and it's like way back in the day, he's not quite the man yet. Like, his dad's still alive. He's not the man. it's like the camera's very loose. You know, the colors are kind of like a little cheesy. Everything's a little bright. Like he's just like, it's long shots that just play, long 2 shots. There's kind of happy music. He's like a bit player. Like he's a guy in the crowd and it's just going on. And that's all shot with Alexa and shot with anamorphic lenses. And then, but as it segues and his real dream starts to happen, like he falls asleep and now I had a dream. And then I'm like, it's got to be 35 millimeter and it's got to be 35 millimeter anamorphic because he's going to the jungle. Like if we could have shot that, David Lean style, I would have, because it's like Kenny is just becoming more and more epic. And so the camera is constant. Now the camera's, he's seeing himself in his mind's eye and these like heroic, everything is shot in a certain way. Even when he's suffering in like a cinematic, like I'm the star of my movie kind of way.
There's that scene.
And it's a put on. It's not, anyway. In my
there's
mind,
that
it's not
scene
real.
when he goes back to those 2 guys, Clive. Like Clive wouldn't be in the first meeting, but in the second meeting, Clive finally shows up. And you shoot Matthew in that low angle kind of way. It's like, oh yeah. And I love that you go with the guy to get the coffee. Yeah. And then you come back and the scene's done. That was great.
Because he's like, this is my moment. These guys didn't know who I was. They overlooked me. And I made them know that, and how would he, and it's just so like, what would he be thinking? And so like Robert and with the production designer, all the color work and the palette of the film, and then also the design of the shooting was really kind of like, it's like if imagine it's not Gandhi, but it's like some guy down the bar with the bar peanuts gets to like have his own biopic, and then he starts to tell you his story about himself, and
it's also great
it's
that
mock heroic.
You start the VO and you're like, oh, I guess this is VO. And then you reveal, no, this is a scene in the movie that we're going to pay off later. And you don't clue us in on that until 30 minutes into the movie, right?
Yeah, like 50, maybe 50 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, something like that. It's a...
You do these weird, infectious, little clever things to suck us, like, because again, I'm watching it. Oh, okay, I'm watching just a biopic of this quirky little gold whatever, and then all of a sudden you start playing with structure and you start playing with thriller elements, because really that's the FBI, and then all of a sudden I'm in a different kind of movie. How do you control the tone of that? How do you control that shift?
I mean, I hope it works. I mean, I'm still not even sure. I mean, like it's a strange. I mean, I get a show of hands.
How do you?
But it's a hard. It was very hard to put together in the editing room. It was really challenging tonally, and then I knew also I really wanted to have all that. I wanted to have all those songs.
Let's talk about that, because I don't want to not, because the music in this is amazing. And I think you have and the Iggy Pop. You got to talk about. Can you tell us a little bit about that song that was towards the end? That I was telling him I was trying to Shazam it. I couldn't Shazam it. It wouldn't come up, and I was getting really frustrated with my phone. I almost broke it. But you want to explain why I can't Shazam it?
By the way, just take note of this. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Okay, just honestly, like the best thing that's ever happened to me. You just heard this. Okay, so I Shazam tons of. I might have even stolen some music from your show and put it in the movie. I hope I didn't, but I could have. But anyway, so we wrote that song. That's an original song for the movie, and I'd never written a song or even been involved in it. And it's really Danger Mouse, my friend, but the composer Daniel Pemberton and I cooked up a little song because I wanted this to have a song like the Nilsson song in Midnight Cowboy, which is one of my favorite films, and actually Schlesinger's one of my favorite directors. And we ran out of time kind of, and I wouldn't let it drop, and Brian Burton, Danger Mouse, agreed to help, and so I sent him this mess and the lyrics I'd written, and he was not very impressed, but he agreed to help, and then we he asked me who I thought should sing it, and I kind of was just in my mind thinking of all these different people, and he goes, because I think Iggy Pop should sing it. And I said, me too. And he picked up his cell. He goes, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And he picks up his cell phone, calls Iggy Pop, and Iggy's like, yeah, I want to do that. And I was like, and he hangs up and he goes, okay, so we'll go to Miami in like 2 weeks. And anyway, so we went to Miami and we holed up in this hotel room, and he opened up his laptops. We're using GarageBand, singing scratch track, like, you know, imagining how Iggy might sing it. and it was so fun. And then he tried to Shazam it. Yeah. And it's not even out yet, but it was so satisfying when Iggy sang those first lyrics. It just made me so happy.
His voice, I mean, that was great.
Yeah, he's such a great guy, Iggy. God, what a cool guy.
On that note, thank you, Stephen Gaghan.
No, Sam, dude, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this DGA Q&A. Check out past episodes of the podcast by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts or on our website at dga.org/podcast. We'll have a lot more episodes coming your way over the next several weeks, so stay tuned. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Director's Cut on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or our SoundCloud page so you won't miss an episode. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for listening. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.